Whoosh! 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 A series of terrifying shrieks tore through the air. Facing the 9 enormous tiger bone spikes hurtling toward him, the burly warrior had already sensed the danger. With a thrust and twist of the broad bone sword in his hand, he instantly conjured a dense curtain of snow-white sword shadows before him. A rapid succession of metallic clashes rang out. All 9 bone spikes were knocked off course and sent shooting in every direction. At the same time, the white bone sword in the burly warrior's hand was blasted away. Even so, the man did not retreat a single step. He suddenly stamped down hard. Boom! The ground beneath his foot cracked apart. Using the force of that stomp, his body blurred and vanished. In the next instant he appeared directly above the giant tiger, as though he had teleported through empty space. The profound acupoints along his right arm erupted with dazzling light. His entire arm became faintly crystalline before he drove it downward with tremendous force. His hand plunged straight into the giant tiger's forehead. Crack! A crisp sound of breaking bone rang out. His right arm was like an indestructible divine weapon, piercing straight through the creature's hardened skull until his arm was buried all the way to the shoulder. The giant tiger unleashed an earth-shaking roar. Its massive body swayed several times before finally collapsing to the ground. Han Li's pupils contracted slightly as he witnessed the entire exchange. Shi Chuankong's expression also changed. The two exchanged a glance and saw the same trace of shock in each other's eyes. That giant tiger had possessed considerable strength. If the two of them had faced it themselves, they believed they could have won. But there was no chance they could have killed it as easily as this burly warrior had. Cheers erupted throughout the mountain hollow when the others saw the tiger fall. The burly warrior ignored them. He pulled his arm from the tiger's skull. Red and white matter covered it. With a slight shake, he sent all of it flying away. When he opened his hand, a fist-sized white crystal core rested in his palm, radiating waves of bright white light. The burly warrior looked at the crystal core with satisfaction before placing it into a small beast hide pouch hanging from his waist. Brother Chun, your armament profound art is becoming more formidable by the day. You even killed that sword-scale tiger with a single strike. At this rate, it won't be long before you earn enough merit points for a 4-star badge. When that happens, I hope Brother Chun won't forget to look after the rest of us. A young man with a horn-shaped tattoo on his cheek retrieved the burly warrior's white bone sword and presented it respectfully with both hands, smiling flatteringly. The others had already collected the 9 scattered bone spikes and immediately joined in with their own praise. Don't worry. As long as you continue following me, Chan Yang, and serve me properly, you won't be lacking in benefits. Chun Yang accepted the bone sword and laughed loudly. The others immediately bowed and thanked him repeatedly. That's enough. Hurry and dismantle the sword-scale tiger. Take out any usable star bones, then return to the stronghold. Today's hunt ends here, Chun Yang said with a casual wave. What about you, Brother Chun? The tattooed young man asked in surprise. I still have something to deal with. You don't need to worry about me. The corner of Chun Yang's mouth lifted slightly. He turned and looked directly toward the place where Han Li and the other two were hiding. We've been discovered. Move. Han Li's expression changed. He immediately turned and rushed away at full speed. Shi Chuankong and Daoist Xia followed without hesitation. The three became streaks of light as they fled toward the depths of the mountain range ahead. The terrain there was complicated. Even if Chun Yang wanted to pursue them, he would probably have some reservations. As for the void-treading turtle, although it had the ability to fly through the air, it was far too slow. They had no time to bother with it now. Chun Yang gave a cold snort. His body blurred into an afterimage as he pursued them and disappeared into the distance almost instantly. The others in the mountain hollow were confused by what they had just seen. However, none of them followed. Instead, they used their weapons to dismantle the sword-scale tiger. Before long, they extracted 4 bones that shimmered with faint white light. The tattooed young man took out a large bundle, packed the 4 bones and the 9 bone spears inside, and then led the others away in another direction. Han Li and his companions moved through the mountains with incredible agility, sometimes climbing and sometimes leaping as they fled at great speed. However, Chen Yang was clearly much faster than the 3 of them. The distance between them rapidly shrank. 30 miles. 20 miles. 10 miles. Before long, Only a few miles remained between the two sides. Looks like we won't be able to outrun him. Han Li sensed Chen Yang rapidly approaching through his spiritual perception, yet he showed no panic. He exchanged a glance with Shi Chuankong before suddenly stopping in a clearing between the mountains. Not long after the two came to a halt, a gray shadow shot toward them. It flickered once before landing nearby, revealing Chen Yang. "Keep running. Why did you stop?" Chen Yang asked, amusement in his eyes, as though a cat were toying with trapped mice. "Fellow Taoist, we had no intention of spying on your battle. We merely heard the sounds of fighting and came over to investigate. We meant no harm," Han Li said with a polite salute. "You two brats from Puppet City should at least put away this puppet before trying to lie to me. Since you've delivered yourselves to your deaths, then hand over your lives." Chen Yang glanced at Taoist Xie and gave a sinister smile. Before his words had even finished, his body lunged forward like a kite swept by the wind. His right hand clawed toward empty space. Boom! The air within several dozen meters began to tremble violently. Visible white currents formed in the air, rolling like raging waves and producing ear-piercing explosions. The white currents surged together and instantly formed an enormous white hand more than 30 meters in size. It descended toward Han Li and the others. Han Li was puzzled by Chen Yang's words, but with the giant hand already falling toward them, there was no time to think. 36 points of light immediately appeared across his body. He drove a fist upward with tremendous force. At the same time, black light flashed in Shi Chuankong's hand, and the long black saber appeared. He swung it upward. The saber transformed into a blurred black arc accompanied by a piercing shriek. Bang! Bang! Two enormous impacts sounded. A large hole and a long slash appeared across the giant white hand. More than half of it exploded apart. However, a smaller portion stubbornly remained intact and suddenly seized Taoist Xie. It immediately withdrew, dragging him back toward Chen Yang. Taoist Xie currently possessed almost no combat strength and was captured with ease. This actually caused Chen Yang to look slightly surprised. Han Li's expression changed. His body blurred as he shot forward and instantly appeared beside Chen Yang. His fists thrust toward Chen Yang's chest like two venomous dragons emerging from their caves. Shi Chuankong also lunged forward. With a gust of wind, he arrived on Chen Yang's opposite side. The black saber blurred as he chopped toward Chen Yang's shoulder blade with lightning speed. The attacks came simultaneously from both sides. Fist pressure and saber energy tore through the surrounding air, forming long trails of turbulent currents that surged like furious waves. Yet Chen Yang's expression did not change at all. Both of his arms shot outward like lightning. His left arm met Han Li's fists while his right swept toward Shi Chuankong's black saber. Two tremendous forces erupted from his arms. They intertwined and spiraled together. The powerful air currents created by Han Li and Shi Chuankong were instantly swept away. Chen Yang's left arm collided with Han Li's fists. A muffled boom like distant thunder rang out. Heat flooded Han Li's fists, followed immediately by burning pain. It felt as though the bones in both hands had cracked. At the same moment, a violent force erupted from Chen Yang's arm and hurled Han Li backward. Meanwhile, the profound acupoints on Chen Yang's right arm flashed. A crystalline radiance covered the entire limb, making it resemble a peerless divine weapon. He swung the arm into Shi Chuankong's black saber. Crack! The saber was effortlessly severed into two pieces. The cut was perfectly smooth. Shi Chuankong was stunned. The black saber was a rank demonic artifact forged from exceptionally fine materials and possessed extraordinary hardness. Although he could not currently activate its full power, the weapon remained extremely formidable. Yet Chen Yang had broken it with ridiculous ease. Chen Yang's right arm did not stop. It swept from left to right, becoming a streak of white light that slashed toward Shi Chuankong's chest with lightning speed. Shi Chuankong roared and stamped the ground. Using the rebound force, he shot backward. At the same time, more than 40 silver points of light appeared across his chest and abdomen. A thick silver crystalline membrane instantly spread over his body. It was the true extreme membrane. Unlike Han Li's smooth version, Shi Chuankong's membrane was covered in sharp spikes like those of a hedgehog. Chen Yang paid no attention to the spiked membrane. His right arm accelerated and smashed directly into Shi Chuankong's chest. Crack! The spiked membrane tore apart like paper. Its sharp protrusion shattered without leaving even a scratch on Chun Yang's arm. Then came another deafening impact. Shi Chuankong was blasted away. He crashed into a nearby cliff and smashed out a deep crater. A long gash had been carved through the true extreme membrane across his chest. Beneath it was a wound so deep that bone could be seen, blood pouring from it. Shi Chuankong flipped himself upright. Such an injury was not particularly serious for someone like him, but shock had already appeared in his eyes. For a moment, he did not dare attack again. Han Li's expression also darkened. He had not come into contact with Chen Yang's strange right arm, but the man's physical strength was astonishing. The power of that single clash had felt like the eruption of a volcano. Han Li's entire body still felt numb, and a slight dizziness lingered in his mind. After knocking both men away, Chen Yang did not pursue them. Instead, he glanced at the broken black saber in Shi Chuankong's hand, then looked toward Dao Xie beside him. Finally, his gaze fell on the blood staining his right hand. He raised it to his nose and sniffed lightly twice. Surprise appeared on his face. Han Li glanced toward Dao Xie. Chen Yang appeared to have placed some kind of restriction on him, leaving him motionless on the ground. Han Li took a deep breath. His gaze sharpened. No matter how powerful Chen Yang was, there was no way Han Li could abandon Dao Xie. He clenched both fists. A series of cracking sounds erupted from inside his body as the 36 profound acupoints across his chest and abdomen shone brightly. Golden light then appeared over his skin. The phantom of an enormous golden ape emerged behind him before merging into his body. Dense golden fur sprouted across Han Li's skin. His body rapidly expanded. In the blink of an eye, he had transformed into a golden giant ape several meters tall. Violent waves of force exploded from the giant ape, causing the surrounding air to burst repeatedly. Fellow Taoist Li Yu. Shi Chuankong stared at Han Li's transformation, hesitating before finishing his sentence. Chen Yang raised an eyebrow. A faintly appreciative smile appeared on his face. He curled one finger toward Han Li in challenge. Roar! A sharp gleam flashed through the golden giant ape's eyes. It released a low roar. Golden light erupted around both fists before they suddenly became blurred. The ape unleashed a rapid barrage of punches into empty space. Dense golden fist shadows appeared like a storm. They streaked toward Chen Yang like meteors, causing the air to explode everywhere they passed. Chen Yang merely shook his head and smiled. His enormous left hand slapped forward through empty space. When the countless golden fist shadows arrived before him, they suddenly froze as though they had struck an invisible, impassable wall. An unseen vibration spread outward. Every golden fist shadow exploded simultaneously. Rolling waves of force swept across an area hundreds of meters wide, making the surrounding space hum violently. Yet the golden giant ape had already vanished. In the next instant, golden light flashed behind Chen Yang. The giant ape appeared like a ghost. Two enormous golden fists the size of millstones smashed toward Chen Yang's back. Chen Yang raised an eyebrow. His reaction was extremely fast. His body spun around as his radiant right arm swept toward both fists. But suddenly, the profound acupoints across the golden ape's chest and abdomen flashed. Cracking noises came from its enormous body as it instantly shrank several times over, becoming roughly the size of an ordinary person. At the same moment it abruptly crouched. The transformation happened so suddenly that there was almost no delay between shrinking and movement. Even Chen Yang had not anticipated it. His right arm swept through empty air, causing his body to sway slightly from the missed strike. Han Li immediately seized the opportunity. His crouched body shot forward. Moving with the agility of a monkey, he slipped beneath Chen Yang's arm and instantly reached Dao Xie. He grabbed Dao Xie and lifted him. You dare toy with me? You're courting death. Anger flashed in Chen Yang's eyes. He steadied himself almost instantly. Both arms shot forward like lightning. With a violent series of cracking sounds, his arms suddenly extended to nearly twice their original length and instantly reached Han Li's waist. His razor-sharp fingers clawed downward. White finger rays erupted from his fingertips. The 5 beams from Chen Yang's right hand were especially dazzling. As they cut through the air, 5 visible ripples appeared in space. The spatial pressure within the scaled void realm was enormous. Space here was far more stable than outside and extraordinarily difficult to disturb. Yet Chun Yang's right hand could actually create spatial ripples. A true extreme membrane had already appeared around Han Li. But before Chun Yang's indestructible claws, it was almost meaningless. Rip! The barrier was easily pierced. But at that exact moment, multicolored light suddenly erupted from Han Li's body. Illusory figures of several true spirits appeared around him, including a heavenly dragon, a true phoenix, an azure bird, a black tortoise, and others. 7 or 8 layers of differently colored radiance flashed wildly across his body. Chun Yang's 10 fingers closed around Han Li's waist. Suddenly, Han Li's skin trembled and became incomparably smooth. Chun Yang's razor-sharp fingers slipped across it without gaining purchase. Han Li twisted his body and escaped from between the 10 fingers. In an instant, he darted several dozen meters away. He spun around and stared cautiously at Chun Yang. The various lights covering Han Li had already disappeared. His body returned to human form, though his face had become somewhat pale. The 12 awakening transformations originally required both spiritual energy and bloodline power to operate simultaneously. Now that Han Li could not use immortal spiritual energy, he could only forcefully circulate his bloodline power to activate the transformation. The exhaustion was considerable. Chun Yang remained where he was and did not pursue him. Instead, he carefully examined Han Li from head to toe. A strange light flickered in his eyes. "Fellow Taoist Li, are you all right?" Shi Chuankong quickly moved beside Han Li. A trace of shame passed through his eyes. With the immense resources of the demonic royal family, he had opened more than 40 profound acupoints, exceeding Han Li's number. However, when it came to combat will and fighting instinct, he was far inferior to Han Li. "I'm fine." Han Li touched his waist. When he pulled his hand away, his palm was covered in blood. 5 long wounds had appeared along his waist, blood pouring from them. In the end, Chun Yang had still managed to injure him. "I never imagined the prisoners here would be this powerful. What should we do now? If necessary, I can use the trump card my third brother gave me and kill this man immediately," Shi Chuankong transmitted, murderous intent flashing in his eyes. Han Li's eyebrows moved slightly. He still had the spirit refinement technique as a hidden trump card. It was not as though he truly feared Chun Yang. "You two are newcomers who have only recently arrived from the outside, aren't you?" Chun Yang suddenly asked. The radiance of the profound acupoints across his body rapidly faded until it completely disappeared. He seemed to have lost his intention to continue fighting. Han Li and Shi Chuankong both narrowed their eyes. "That's right. We were recently thrown into the scaled void realm by the Night Sun dynasty. Who exactly are you and why did you attack us?" Han Li asked in a deep voice. "As I thought. Then this whole matter was a misunderstanding. I didn't recognize either of you, and since you were traveling with a puppet, I assumed you were people from Puppet City. That's why I attacked." Chun Yang's expression softened slightly. Han Li and Shi Chuankong exchanged a glance, but neither lowered their guard. "There's no need for you two to worry. Since you are newcomers, we are not enemies," Chun Yang said with a smile, clearly intending to turn hostility into friendship. "Since it was a misunderstanding, neither of us is the type to hold a grudge over something like this. We can consider what happened just now settled." Han Li and Shi Chuankong briefly exchanged voice transmissions before Han Li gave a polite salute. They had finally encountered prisoners who actually lived within the scaled void realm. Han Li had no desire to fight them to the death if the conflict could be resolved peacefully. "My name is Chun Yang. May I ask how I should address the two of you?" Chun Yang asked, returning the salute. "Li Feiyu. Shi Kong." Han Li and Shi Chuankong gave their names. Because of his identity, Shi Chuankong used a false name. "So it is fellow Taoist Li and fellow Taoist Shi. Pleasure to meet you. I suppose you could say we became acquainted through fighting." Chun Yang laughed loudly. After exchanging introductions, the previously tense atmosphere eased considerably. "Fellow Taoist Chan, what exactly is the puppet city you mentioned earlier?" Han Li asked, changing the subject. "That requires a long explanation, but I'll keep it simple. The survivors inside the scaled void realm are currently divided into 2 major factions. I and the people you saw earlier belong to Profound City, while Puppet City represents the other faction. Relations between the two sides are very poor. That is why I attacked you when I saw your puppet, Chen Yang explained with a smile. I see. Han Li nodded thoughtfully. Profound City and Puppet City. Those names sound rather deliberate, Shi Chuankong said. You are correct. You must have already noticed that neither demonic energy nor any other form of elemental energy can be used within the scaled void realm. To fight the scaled beasts here, one must either cultivate body refinement arts or rely on outside forces such as puppets. Our Profound City specializes in body refinement, while Puppet City, as its name suggests, excels at controlling puppets, Chen Yang explained. So that's how it is. Understanding appeared on Shi Chuankong's face. The environment inside the scaled void realm is extremely harsh. Besides scaled beasts, there are many other dangers. Small groups have great difficulty surviving. Would the two of you be interested in joining Profound City? Both of you have already opened quite a few profound acupoints, which makes you excellent candidates for body cultivation. Profound City would suit you perfectly. Chen Yang unexpectedly extended an invitation. Join Profound City? Han Li was secretly delighted. After learning about the situation in the scaled void realm, he had already been wondering how to enter either Profound City or Puppet City to investigate Ziling's whereabouts. He had barely begun thinking about it when the opportunity presented itself. Although delighted internally, Han Li maintained a calm expression and pretended to consider the proposal. At the same time, he quietly signaled Shi Chuankong with his eyes. We have only just arrived here. Could fellow Daoist-chan first tell us more about Profound City? Shi Chuankong asked after a brief pause, neither accepting nor refusing. As I mentioned earlier, Profound City focuses primarily on cultivating body refinement arts. Our city lord is Lord Yi Kuai. His achievements in body cultivation have reached an extraordinary level. He has opened more than 1,000 profound acupoints. It is only because of Lord Yi Kuai's protection that people like us are able to survive safely within the scaled void realm. When Chen Yang mentioned Yi Kuai, admiration appeared on his face. More than 1,000 profound acupoints. Han Li sucked in a breath. Shi Chuankong's expression changed even more dramatically. Body cultivation was extraordinarily difficult. People from the Holy Realm possessed natural physical advantages, along with an abundance of cultivation resources. Even then, cultivators who had opened 800 profound acupoints were exceedingly rare. As for someone who had opened more than 1,000, Shi Chuankong had never even heard of such a person. Lord Yi Kuai possesses extraordinary talent. Even if we spent our entire lives cultivating, we might never reach half of his achievements. Still, I can see that both of you possess exceptional talent in body refinement and have already reached a respectable level. Joining Profound City would give you the opportunity to advance much further. Chen Yang smiled faintly at their reactions. This is an important matter. Could fellow Daoist-chan give us some time to consider it? Han Li asked after lowering his head in thought. There was no response. Han Li found this strange. When he looked up, he froze slightly. Chen Yang was staring into the sky. His expression had become unusually grave. Han Li followed his gaze. The originally clear sky had somehow become dark. It looked as though thick storm clouds were gathering overhead. Fellow Daoist-chan, is there something wrong with the sky? Shi Chuankong asked after noticing the change as well. What is going on? Why has it come so much earlier this year? Chen Yang ignored the question and muttered to himself. Fellow Daoist-chan, are you all right? Han Li asked more loudly. What? Chen Yang's body trembled slightly before he finally came back to his senses. Han Li frowned and repeated his earlier question. Of course. You two may take your time considering the invitation. However, we cannot remain here for long. It would be best for you to leave with me first. Chen Yang's expression was unsettled. A trace of urgency had appeared in his voice. What do you mean? Is there something dangerous about those dark clouds? Shi Chuankong asked with a frown. Those aren't ordinary clouds. They are the warning sign of a natural disaster unique to the scaled void realm. The Bifeng. It happens every year, but I never expected it to arrive this early. This wind cannot be resisted by human strength. My companions and I have an underground shelter nearby. We need to reach it immediately. Chen Yang spoke quickly. Bifeng. Shi Chuankong's expression changed. Fellow Taoist Shi, have you heard of this Bifeng before? Hanli transmitted mentally. I once saw a record of it in an ancient book inside my third brother's library. The description was vague, but it said the Bifeng was an extremely terrifying wind disaster. Judging by Chun Yang's reaction, it clearly isn't something to underestimate, Shi Chuankong replied. In that case, we'll trouble fellow Taoist Chun to lead the way, Hanli said. There's no need to be polite. We were all exiled here by the Night Sun dynasty. People in our situation should naturally help one another. Hurry and follow me. Chen Yang was clearly anxious to leave. He smiled briefly and prepared to move. Fellow Taoist Chun, please remove the restriction from my puppet first, Hanli suddenly said, holding Taoist Xie forward. Right. I nearly forgot. Chun Yang slapped his forehead. He touched the joint of Taoist Xie's elbow and pulled out a golden needle. The needle was several inches long and as fine as a strand of hair. Tiny patterns could faintly be seen across its surface, making it look quite extraordinary. Hanli studied it curiously. This is a dragon whisker needle. It was developed by an expert in Profound City specifically for restraining various types of puppets. As Chun Yang explained, his hands continued moving. He pulled golden needles from the joints throughout Taoist Xie's body. I see. Hanli nodded slowly. When Chun Yang removed the ninth needle, Taoist Xie moved his body and immediately stood up. Surprise appeared on Chun Yang's face. Is something wrong? Hanli asked. Puppets restrained by dragon whisker needles normally require some time to readjust after the needles are removed before they can regain movement. Your puppet is quite unusual. It recovered the moment the needles were taken out. Chun Yang carefully examined Taoist Xie. Perhaps it was because he wasn't restrained for very long, Hanli replied vaguely. Let's go. Chun Yang did not continue pursuing the matter. He stored away the golden needles, turned around and quickly headed back the way he had come. Hanli and the other two followed. Around an hour later, the four arrived at a valley. The valley lay in a low-lying area surrounded by mountains on three sides, making it extremely secluded and difficult to discover. By now, the dark clouds in the sky had become extraordinarily dense. Black lightning could faintly be seen deep within them, leaping and flickering continuously. Powerful winds had already begun sweeping through the air. They howled toward the group with eerie wailing sounds. Although the strength of the wind itself was not enough to trouble Hanli and the others, it carried waves of bone-piercing cold that seemed capable of penetrating directly into their organs. After traveling against the wind for some time, none of them looked particularly comfortable. Fortunately, they had already reached their destination. Chun Yang led Hanli and his companions to a cliff at the deepest part of the valley. A massive gray boulder rested against the rock wall. Chun Yang pushed it aside, revealing a dark cave that extended deep underground. Brother Chun, you're finally back. Who are they? A red-haired man wearing bone armor suddenly emerged from the cave. He first looked delighted, then immediately became cautious when he saw Hanli and the others. These are fellow Taoist Li and fellow Taoist Shi. They were recently exiled here. The beefing is beginning, so I brought them here to take shelter, Chun Yang said. I see. A pleasure to meet all three of you. Hurry inside. What we're experiencing now is only the approaching phase. The true beefing is more than 10 times worse than this, the red-haired man said with a smile, stepping aside. 10 times. Hanli was inwardly shocked. Even the current winds were already making him uncomfortable. If their power truly increased tenfold, then with his cultivation currently unusable, even if he did not die, he would likely suffer devastating injuries in a very short time. With those thoughts in mind, Hanli followed Chun Yang into the cave. The moment they entered, the violent wind disappeared. However, the sinister cold in the air remained. The thick mountain walls blocked most of it, greatly reducing its intensity. Feng Bei, seal the entrance completely. Don't remain here guarding it either. Come down with us. Once the cold energy carried by the beefing enters your body, getting rid of it becomes extremely difficult, Chun Yang told the red-haired man. Yes. Emotion flashed through Feng Bei's eyes. He immediately began sealing the cave entrance. Hanli noticed this and became thoughtful. Chun Yang did not remain there. He led the three deeper underground. The cave twisted and descended continuously. It appeared to have formed naturally before later being reinforced and expanded by hand. They quickly descended several hundred meters, yet the passage still showed no sign of ending. Fortunately, the deeper they went, the weaker the sinister cold became. Everyone finally relaxed slightly. "Fellow Taoist-chan, thank you for inviting us here," Hanli and Shi Chuankong said with polite salutes. Without Chun Yang's invitation, the two of them might truly have ended up in danger. "I already said that we are all prisoners exiled here. We should naturally help one another. There is no need for such courtesy," Chun Yang replied with a hearty laugh. Hanli smiled and said nothing more. The four continued downward for another 15 minutes. At last the tunnel reached its end. A surprisingly large underground cavern lay before them, several dozen meters across. The ground was relatively flat. A broad oval stone table stood in the center, surrounded by 7 or 8 stone stools. Several crude stone rooms had been carved into the walls of the cavern. There was currently no one outside. The doors to the stone chambers were tightly closed, suggesting that everyone had already taken shelter inside. "Fellow Taoist Li, fellow Taoist Shi, the beefing normally lasts for around a month before passing. Rest here for now. You can also use the time to consider joining Profound City," Chun Yang said. "All right." Hanli and Shi Chuankong nodded. Nearly all the stone rooms were occupied. The two did not enter any of them. Instead, they found a place in the main cavern and sat down. Chun Yang glanced at them before also choosing a place outside rather than entering one of the stone chambers. Despite the thick layers of earth separating them from the surface, they could still hear the wind roaring outside. The ground trembled faintly. The rock beneath them shook. Fragments of stone continually fell from the cavern ceiling. Thunderous crashes echoed without pause, as though the entire continent were struggling beneath the destructive power of the beefing and had begun to tremble. Hanli listened to the terrifying sounds from outside and felt secretly alarmed. During the past few months, he and Shi Chuankong had traveled through the scaled void realm and encountered several attacks from scaled beasts. However, they had dealt with all of them successfully. Because of that, Hanli had gradually begun to think that the dangers of the scaled void realm had been somewhat exaggerated. Only now, hearing the destruction taking place outside, did he finally understand how dangerous this place truly was. "Fellow Taoist Li, are we really going to join Profound City just like that?" Shi Chuankong moved closer and transmitted. "What do you think?" Hanli asked after a brief pause. "The dangers of the scaled void realm appear far greater than we expected. Instead of wandering around aimlessly, joining Profound City might indeed give us a clear path forward. But according to Chun Yang, Profound City and Puppet City are mortal enemies. If we join Profound City and fail to find Ziling there, going to Puppet City afterward may become extremely difficult," Shi Chuankong replied. "That is true, but while we are trapped in the scaled void realm, we will eventually have to choose between Profound City and Puppet City. Based on our current situation, Profound City seems more advantageous to us," Hanli transmitted. "I agree. Since you've already made your decision, I have no objections. Besides, I am genuinely curious about Profound City and would like to see it for myself." Shi Chuankong smiled. "Oh." Surprise flashed in Hanli's eyes. Chun Yang said that Lord Yi, the ruler of Profound City, has opened more than 1,000 profound acupoints. That means Profound City must possess numerous cultivation methods for opening such acupoints. Those techniques would be priceless treasures. Even the royal treasury of the Night Sun dynasty probably does not contain that many body refinement methods. If we can obtain them, not only would our own strength increase, but bringing those techniques back outside could greatly assist my third brother in his struggle for the throne. Shi Chuankong's eyes shone brightly. A faint smile appeared on Hanli's face. He had not said it aloud, but the body refinement techniques were also one of the main reasons he wanted to enter Profound City. Chun Yang's seemingly indestructible arm had made Hanli both envious and deeply aware of just how powerful body cultivators could become. Hanli had always possessed exceptional talent in physical cultivation. His only problem was the lack of a suitable body refinement technique capable of allowing him to continue advancing. Hanli and Shi Chuankong continued discussing the benefits and risks of joining Profound City. Before long, they reached an agreement. Once their discussion was finished, Han Li stood and walked toward Chen Yang. Fellow Taoist Li. Chen Yang had secretly been observing the two of them. When Han Li approached, he immediately stood to greet him. Fellow Taoist Chen, fellow Taoist Shi and I have discussed the matter and decided to join Profound City. However, before officially joining, there are a few things I would like to ask. Han Li spoke solemnly. Joy appeared on Chen Yang's face. Please ask. I would like to know whether joining Profound City requires us to pay some kind of price or accept any contracts or rules, Han Li asked. So that is what you're worried about. You can rest assured. Lord Yi Kuai founded Profound City with the purpose of protecting fellow survivors. There is no price required to join. As for rules, there is only one. Chen Yang's expression became serious. Once you enter Profound City, you must never betray it. I understand. Han Li relaxed slightly and nodded solemnly. There is one more matter I would like to ask about, he continued. Go ahead. Chen Yang paused before nodding again. I have a companion named Ziling. She is a female cultivator who was thrown into the scaled void realm several decades ago. Have you ever heard of her? Han Li stared directly into Chen Yang's eyes. Ziling. Chen Yang considered the name for a moment before shaking his head. No. I have never heard of her. Han Li's heart sank. But don't lose hope, Chen Yang quickly added. Profound City is not a single settlement. Aside from the main city, there are several smaller affiliated cities. I myself come from one of them, Green Goat City. Communication formations cannot be used within the scaled void realm, so information travels very poorly between the different cities. Your friend may simply have ended up in another settlement. So that's how it is. Thank you for explaining, fellow Taoist Chan. Fellow Taoist Shi and I are willing to join Xian City. I hope you can introduce us, Han Li said, feeling slightly more at ease as he cupped his hands toward Chen Yang. Shi Chuankong also stepped forward and offered a respectful salute. Excellent. From this day onward, the two of you are brothers of Xian City. Once this beefing calamity ends, I'll immediately take you both to Qingyang City, Chen Yang replied with obvious delight. The red-haired man had also entered the cavern by then. He stepped forward and greeted them. Welcome, fellow Taoists, to Xian City. Now that the matter had been settled, the atmosphere among them became considerably more relaxed. They chatted casually for a while, but outside, the wind continued to howl with a bone-chilling shriek. Waves of sinister cold seeped through the earth and into the cavern. Before long, no one was in the mood to continue talking. Each person found a place to sit and began circulating their cultivation techniques to resist the cold. Fortunately, the thick layer of earth blocked most of the freezing energy. What little managed to penetrate underground posed no real threat to profound cultivators like Han Li, whose physical bodies were already exceptionally powerful. Fellow Taoist Han. Just as Han Li found an empty spot and sat down, the crab Taoist's voice suddenly sounded inside his mind. Fellow Taoist crab, Chen Yang sealed your body with those dragon whisker needles earlier. Are you all right? Han Li's eyes brightened. He glanced toward the crab Taoist, who was sitting not far away, and immediately communicated with him through voice transmission. Ever since the dragon whisker needles had sealed his body, the crab Taoist had remained silent. Even when Han Li had tried contacting him through voice transmission, there had been no response, leaving Han Li somewhat worried. Now that the crab Taoist had taken the initiative to speak, Han Li was both relieved and surprised. I'm fine. In fact, those golden needles stimulated my memories and caused me to recall several more things, the crab Taoist replied, a rare trace of emotion entering his voice. Are they related to the scaled void realm? Han Li asked quickly. Some are, some aren't. I remembered quite a lot this time, but the memories were chaotic and fragmented. It took me a long time to sort out even a small portion. What exactly did you remember? Han Li immediately pressed. Most of the memories concern a place deep within the scaled void realm called Free and Unfettered Palace. I also remembered two names. One is Yi Kuai, and the other is Sha Xian. Yi Kuai. He's the lord of Xian City. Are you connected to him somehow? Han Li was greatly startled. I don't know. The memories are too vague. I only recalled those two names. Beyond that, I still know nothing, the crab Taoist replied, his voice carrying unmistakable frustration. Don't dwell on it too much. Once we reach Xian City, I'll find a way to investigate the things you just mentioned, Hanli reassured him. Besides those memories, I also remembered something else. It may be useful to you. The crab Taoist's spirits seemed to lift. He looked toward Hanli, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Oh? What is it? Hanli raised an eyebrow. The crab Taoist did not answer. After a moment, he slowly stood and walked over to Hanli. Raising one finger, he touched Hanli between the brows. A ray of golden light shot from his fingertip and entered Hanli's mind. The instant it did, it exploded into countless tiny golden characters. Hanli's eyes widened in astonishment and joy. He immediately closed them again and settled into a cross-legged position. The golden characters formed a complete body refinement cultivation technique, known as the Feathered Ascension Art. This technique contained 18 profound apertures, all of which were distributed throughout the legs. Once mastered, it would not only strengthen the physical body, but would also increase movement speed to an unbelievable degree. At its highest level, the cultivator could supposedly cross empty space using nothing but physical strength, as though ascending beyond the mortal realm. Hanli became completely absorbed in the golden text. Only after enough time had passed to finish a meal did he finally open his eyes. Fellow Taoist crab, thank you. This technique is exactly what I need, Hanli said through voice transmission, barely suppressing his excitement. Although his understanding of body refinement techniques was not especially extensive, he could still tell that while the Feathered Ascension Art did not open a large number of profound apertures, successfully mastering it would enormously strengthen his legs. More importantly, in a place where flight was impossible, such a movement technique was perfectly suited to his present circumstances. Even if he could not defeat an enemy, surely he could still run away. You should try cultivating it first, the crab Taoist replied with a nod. He sat down nearby and paid Hanli no further attention. Hanli breathed slowly until his emotions settled, then began cultivating the Feathered Ascension Art. Like the great heavenly cycle stellar origin art, this technique used stellar power to temper the physical body before opening profound apertures. The scaled void realm was extremely rich in stellar power, making it an ideal place to cultivate such an art. Although Hanli was currently underground and unable to directly draw power from the stars, he had consumed many beast cores during his journey. Those cores contained abundant stellar power, much of which remained stored inside his body. That accumulated energy could now be put to use. Hanli carefully reviewed the entire Feathered Ascension Art in his mind. Once he was certain there were no mistakes, he slowly began circulating the technique. A muffled boom echoed within his body. All the stellar power stored inside him surged into motion and began pouring toward a profound aperture in his leg. The aperture greedily absorbed the stellar power. An intense tingling sensation spread throughout Hanli's leg, so comfortable that he nearly let out a groan. As more stellar power flowed into the aperture, it seemed to awaken. It pulsed faintly, almost as though it were breathing through an invisible mouth and nose, gradually beginning to open. Time passed little by little. In the blink of an eye, more than half a month went by. Hanli remained seated cross-legged, motionless. However, a tiny point of starlight had appeared on his lower leg. It flickered continuously, growing faster and faster. Suddenly, Hanli opened his eyes. A cracking sound came from the profound aperture in his lower leg, and the starlight radiating from it abruptly grew several times brighter. After more than half a month of arduous cultivation, the aperture had finally been completely opened. Excitement flashed through Hanli's eyes. Then he suddenly remembered where he was and quickly looked around. By now, Chen Yang and the others had entered the stone chambers to cultivate. Only Hanli, Shi Chuankong, and the crab Taoist remained outside. Shi Chuankong was sitting cross-legged in the distance with his eyes closed, apparently cultivating as well. He had not noticed the disturbance on Hanli's side. Hanli secretly breathed a sigh of relief and suppressed the starlight emanating from his lower leg. However, a thoughtful expression soon appeared on his face. According to the Feathered Ascension Art, opening these profound apertures was supposed to be extremely difficult. A cultivator normally had to spend a great deal of time slowly tempering each aperture before it could be opened. It was true that Hanli had consumed many beast cores and possessed far more stored stellar power than an ordinary cultivator, which greatly benefited his cultivation. Even so, opening a profound aperture in barely a dozen days was far too fast. Han Li silently considered the possible reasons for a while before shaking his head. Whatever the cause, being able to master the technique faster was only a good thing. He focused his hearing on the world outside. The roaring wind had not stopped. The beefing calamity was clearly still raging. The sinister cold within the cavern had grown somewhat stronger than when they first arrived, though not by much. Han Li had been completely immersed in cultivation over the past several days, his blood and vitality circulating at full force, so he had hardly noticed the change. He glanced at Shi Chuankong and the crab Taoist. Neither seemed affected by the cold, easing his worries. Han Li soon closed his eyes again and began cultivating the next profound aperture. Another 7 or 8 days passed in the blink of an eye. Han Li slowly opened his eyes and exhaled a mouthful of stale air. The stellar power stored inside his body had finally been exhausted. Without stellar power, there was naturally no way to continue cultivating. At the same time, the howling beefing outside had begun to weaken, and the freezing energy carried within the wind had completely disappeared. Chun Yang and the others emerged from their stone chambers and began preparing to depart. The other members of the group were somewhat curious about Han Li and Shi Chuankong, the two newcomers. After briefly asking about their circumstances, they soon accepted them without much difficulty. The group left the underground cavern and returned to the valley. The wind was still raging outside, filling the air with sand and dust. Although the bone-piercing cold had vanished, the remaining wind was still powerful enough to make several of them sway slightly on their feet. The valley had been completely transformed. A thick layer of earth had been stripped from the ground, leaving deep trenches and ravines everywhere. Several nearby mountains had visibly become shorter, their upper sections apparently torn away by the beefing. Seeing the devastation, Han Li was once again shocked by the terrifying power of the calamity. The worst of the beefing disaster should be over. "We'll set out now," Chen Yang said after looking at the sky. "Fellow Taoist Chun, why not wait another few days until the wind dies down completely?" Han Li asked in confusion. "Brother Li, there's something you don't know. Although the beefing is a natural disaster, it also brings certain benefits. Whenever it sweeps through the wilderness, plenty of foolish scaled beasts fail to find shelter in time and are either frozen or smashed to death. We need to search for them as soon as possible. If we arrive too late, other beasts will devour the corpses, and we won't get anything. So that's it. Misfortune truly can conceal opportunity," Han Li said with realization before laughing. "We should make a fortune this time." Shi Chuankong rubbed his hands together eagerly. Chen Yang said nothing more. He waved his hand and led the group into the swirling sandstorm. They soon disappeared from sight. A blazing sun hung high above the Gobi wilderness as wind and sand howled across the land. A hunting party returning from the wilderness struggled forward through the dust. Several enormous blue-gray beasts covered entirely in scales marched at the front, clearing a path, while roughly a dozen tall men moved among them. Every person had wrapped his face and neck in thick cloth, yet they could still feel the coarse sting of sand and stone striking their skin under the force of the gale. Because of the tremendous spatial pressure in this realm, even ordinary grains of sand became dangerously powerful. Every step through the storm required considerable effort. Among the group walked a man in green robes. Looking through the gaps between the giant beasts, he narrowed his eyes and stared ahead. The distant landscape was covered in a yellow haze, but deep within it, an enormous dark silhouette could faintly be seen. "Fellow Taoist Chunyang, how much farther is Qingyang City?" the green-robed man asked, focusing his voice into a narrow transmission toward the muscular man beside him. "Not far. We're almost there." The muscular man's expression could not be seen beneath the thick cloth wrapped around his face, but unmistakable joy filled his voice. They truly were close. "Finally. Brotherly, don't worry. Once we reach the city, we'll surely find some way to investigate fellow Taoist Ziling. After all, a woman as beautiful as her would be impossible to forget once someone had seen her," a white-haired man said teasingly. "I hope you're right," the green-robed man replied, staring ahead with deep, thoughtful eyes. They were none other than Han Li, Chen Yang, and the others returning from the wilderness. After casually exchanging a few words with Shi Chuankong, Han Li fell silent again and continued forward with the group. After advancing several hundred more meters, the roar of the sandstorm gradually weakened. The massive shadow they had seen earlier finally emerged clearly from the dust. Two black mountains stood side by side, each towering more than 3,000 meters into the sky. Their rocky surfaces were jagged and uneven, covered everywhere with holes of various sizes that had been carved out by countless years of wind erosion. Han Li looked upward. A gigantic valley lay between the two mountains, and at its center stood a black fortress several hundred meters tall. The fortress possessed a crude, imposing design. Three enormous domed bunkers crowned its upper section, connected by two stretches of battlement walkways. Beneath them stood enormously thick black walls. Once Han Li's group entered the valley, the surrounding mountains and fortress blocked nearly all of the wind and sand, making their journey much easier. When they arrived outside the city gate, Chun Yang removed the cloth from his face and shook the sand from his body. He stepped onto a stone platform beside the entrance and slapped his palm against a massive bronze bell hanging above it. Dong! A deep, resonant bell rang through the valley. A small opening suddenly appeared above the gateway. Several figures looked outside before someone shouted, "Captain Chun Yang is back. Open the gate." A heavy rumbling came from within the wall, accompanied by the grinding of mechanical gears. The two enormous black gates slowly opened inward. "Brotherly brother, sure, let's go," Chun Yang called with a smile. The group entered the fortress, and the stone gates slowly closed behind them. As soon as Han Li stepped inside, he realized the interior was rather different from what he had imagined. The fortress was enormous, stretching several hundred meters in every direction. Large braziers hung from the walls every few meters. Some kind of beast oil burned inside them without producing smoke, though a faintly bloody smell lingered in the air. Much of the interior space was occupied by gears and mechanical structures. Three enormous stone pillars stood in the center, each wrapped in a spiraling stone staircase leading toward one of the three bunkers above the city wall. Many people moved busily throughout the fortress. Chun Yang's subordinates began leading the various beasts toward the right side of the stronghold. Han Li and the others remained in the main hall. Before long, two demonic men wearing dark crimson robes approached. Each carried a thick record book in one hand and a brush soaked in red cinnabar ink in the other. Chun Yang clearly knew them well. A smile appeared on his face as he stepped forward to greet them. "Captain Chun Yang, looks like you had quite a successful hunt this time," said a round-faced man with a sharp horn growing from the center of his forehead. "We were fortunate enough not to return empty-handed. Perhaps I have the two record officers to thank for the good luck," Chun Yang replied with a smile. The other record officer had a square face and long ears. His expression was much colder. He looked over Han Li and his companions before asking, "Those three, are they compliant citizens or surrendered citizens?" "They're guests I brought back and intend to join Qingyang City. As for which category they belong to, we can decide that after I meet the city lord," Chun Yang replied, looking slightly awkward. "According to the rules, the first thing anyone must do after entering the city is undergo an evaluation. Captain Chun Yang, what you're proposing seems rather inappropriate," the square-faced officer said with a frown. The round-faced officer quickly stepped in to ease the tension. "Surely you can trust Captain Chun Yang. He's one of the hunting captains most highly valued by the city lord. He merely said the evaluation would take place after he meets the city lord, not that it would be skipped entirely. Waiting a little won't hurt anything." When he said the words "most highly valued," he deliberately emphasized them. The square-faced officer clearly understood the warning and stopped arguing. "In that case, delaying it somewhat is acceptable. Many thanks to both of you. We've already brought back the harvest from this expedition, so I'll have to trouble you to count everything. This is only a small token of appreciation. Please accept it." As Chun Yang spoke, he extended his hand and discreetly passed two beast cores hidden inside his sleeve to the officers. The round-faced officer smiled. "There's no need. You're far too polite." Despite his words, he quietly accepted the cores. "After this, I still need to meet the city lord. I'll arrange somewhere for you three to rest first," Chun Yang said after the officers left. "Who were those two?" Han Li asked, his brows slightly furrowed. "They're record officers of Qingyang City. They're responsible for recording the hunting team's harvests and registering newcomers. And what did they mean by compliant citizens and surrendered citizens? Hanli continued. Brother Li, your hearing really is impressive. Those are classifications used inside the city. Compliant citizens hold higher status. They can join the city guard or hunting teams and receive more resources. Surrendered citizens rank lower. They can only perform menial labor and receive far fewer resources. So the evaluation they mention determines which class someone belongs to? Exactly. We can talk while we walk. Chunyang laughed and led the way toward the left side of the fortress. Hanli and Shi Chuankong exchanged a glance before following. According to Qingyang City's rules, every newcomer must undergo an evaluation. Once their rank has been determined and recorded, they're assigned duties according to that rank. However, I've personally witnessed your strength. I intend to report directly to the city lord, and have you both placed under my command. I imagine neither of you wants to be separated. Wouldn't that violate the city's rules? Shi Chuankong asked with a frown. Rules are rigid but people aren't. If you go through the normal evaluation and those record officers assign you to other hunting teams, wouldn't I suffer a tremendous loss? Whether you can avoid the evaluation entirely still depends on the city lord's decision. That doesn't matter to me, Hanli replied. Brother Li, with your strength, I doubt it'll take long before you become a hunting captain yourself. When that happens, don't forget who recommended you. Chunyang laughed, giving Hanli a meaningful look. As they spoke, the four passed through 3 stone archways and arrived before a rounded entrance carved directly into the mountainside. Only then did Hanli realize that the so-called Qingyang city had actually been excavated into the interiors of the 2 mountains. Directly beyond the arched entrance stood a humanoid stone statue more than 30 meters tall. Its overall shape resembled a human. It had no wings, scales, or horns, though its facial features were blurred beyond recognition. Is this the statue of the city lord you mentioned? Hanli asked curiously. You guessed wrong, Brother Li. This statue is incredibly ancient. It existed even before Qingyang City itself. No one knows who it depicts, not even our city lord. Perhaps only Lord Yi Kuai, the lord of Xian City, knows its true origins. I see. I was only asking casually. The left mountain of Qingyang City has 4 levels. The level we're on is the forging level. All armor and weapons in the city are manufactured here, and this is also where various beast-based pills are refined. Most of the armor, weapons, and medicines belong directly to the city lord, who controls how they're distributed. Only a small portion enters circulation and is sold through the city's few shops. And the other levels? Shi Chuankong asked while glancing upward. The next level is where the surrendered citizens live. The level above that belongs to the compliant citizens. The highest level contains the city lord's residence. For now, you'll rest at my residence while I go meet the city lord. Then we'll have to trouble you, Hanli replied with a smile and cupped hands. Chen Yang gave the 3 of them a brief tour of the lowest level, before leading them up a spiraling staircase to the 3rd level. The 3rd level was noticeably smaller, and considerably less crowded than the 2 below. A broad passage extended into the distance, lined on both sides with entrances to individual cave residences. Chen Yang's residence stood near the middle of the passage and was relatively spacious, clearly one of the better dwellings in the city. As Hanli and the others entered with Chen Yang, 1 woman and 3 men immediately came forward and bowed respectfully. The 3 men were dressed like servants. The woman, however, wore somewhat different clothing. Although her garments were the same dull blue-gray common in the city, they were carefully tailored and hugged her graceful figure. Her only shortcoming was her appearance, which could be considered ordinary rather than beautiful. They're surrendered citizens as well, but technically they're my private property, Chen Yang said. His gaze openly roamed over the woman's body. If any of you are interested, feel free to amuse yourselves with my maid. Women are a scarce resource here. Having one entirely to yourself isn't easy. We've traveled a long way. I'm afraid I don't have the energy for that. I'd rather rest first, Hanli replied with a smile, politely refusing. Very well. You should all rest in the guest rooms. Once I've met the city lord, I'll return and entertain you properly. Hanli and the other 2 returned his salute. Take good care of our 3 honored guests. Chun Yang instructed the servants before turning and leaving. The ordinary-looking yet seductive woman stepped forward and politely apologized for the simplicity of the accommodations. Swaying her slender waist, she led Han Li and the others through the corridors to separate guest rooms. After she left, Shi Chuankong and the crab Taoists soon emerged from their rooms and entered Han Li's. Han Li closed the stone door. The three gathered around a stone table and sat down. Brother Li, do you think joining Xian City will restrict our movements? Shi Chuankong asked first. Not necessarily restrict us, but they'll probably assign us tasks and responsibilities. That will inevitably consume some time. The living conditions here are extremely harsh. Anyone who survives must contribute something, and follow the local rules. I'm worried we'll get tangled in endless obligations. I have no intention of truly joining Xian City and becoming some compliant citizen, Shi Chuankong muttered. We don't have much choice at the moment. We'll have to take things one step at a time. Stay cautious. We're newcomers and know very little about this place. Brother Li, do you think these people intend to harm us? Shi Chuankong scratched his head. People regarded as criminals by your sacred realm and exiled to a place like this are unlikely to all be kind-hearted individuals. Anyone too soft-hearted probably wouldn't have survived until today, Han Li replied with a sigh. That's true. It never hurts to be cautious around others. Fellow Taoist Li, fellow Taoist Shi, what do you think of Chun Yang? The crab Taoist suddenly asked. We haven't known him long, but judging from the way he treats his subordinates and how he's behaved over the past several days, he seems decent enough, Shi Chuankong replied. Did you notice something suspicious? Han Li asked, narrowing his eyes. No. I simply find it strange that we've only known him for a short time, yet he's willing to break Xian City's rules for us. It seems somewhat excessive. That doesn't mean much. It's just a way of winning people over. I've seen such methods countless times, Shi Chuankong said with a laugh. It may not necessarily mean anything sinister, but we definitely can't lower our guard, Han Li said thoughtfully. At the same time, on the highest level inside Qingyang City's left mountain, Chun Yang stood inside an enormous hall. Huge braziers hung along all four walls. They appeared to have been fashioned from the skulls of giant beasts. Oil burned continuously inside them, casting brilliant light throughout the chamber. Against the central rear wall stood a massive stone desk carved with elaborate patterns rarely seen in the scaled void realm. Most of them depicted constellations spread across the night sky. Behind the desk stood a broad black stone chair covered with the hide of an unknown beast. A massive man dressed in black sat upon it. Black scales covered one half of his face, while the other half looked as though it had been badly burned. The muscles there had twisted and knotted together. He stood almost twice as tall as an ordinary person, and his massively developed body made him appear exceptionally fierce and ugly. His eyes, however, were particularly unusual. Most of each eye was white, while the pupils were small and black as ink. A thin ring of silver-white light surrounded each pupil. Chun Yang stood opposite the desk, bending forward respectfully while explaining something with obvious excitement. My lord, that is essentially the situation regarding those three, he finally concluded. The man sitting behind the desk was none other than Du Qingyang, lord of Qingyang City. Heh, one human, one demon, and a puppet with independent consciousness. Quite an interesting combination. Du Qingyang leaned forward and rested his chin on his interlocked fingers. Information about those three hasn't spread, has it? Rest assured, City Lord. I understand how important this matter is. I already warned my men. They know how to keep their mouths shut. Good. I heard that Xian City recently fought Puppet City over someone and lost. Lord Yi Kuai was extremely displeased. Apparently, that person had only recently entered this place of exile from the outside world. Now we've suddenly brought back two outsiders at once. If Xian City learns of them, we won't be able to keep either. The demon man isn't particularly important, but the human absolutely cannot be handed over. He possesses true spirit bloodlines. If someone else gets him, we'll suffer a tremendous loss, Chun Yang said, nodding repeatedly. I trust you to handle things properly. Take care of what comes next and make sure nothing goes wrong. Du Qingyang straightened and leaned lazily back in his chair. Yes, City Lord. Rest assured. Chun Yang cupped his fists respectfully. Evening soon arrived. Han Li was inside his guest room cultivating the feathered ascension art, when a knock suddenly came from beyond the thin stone door. He rose and opened it. Chun Yang stood outside with an apologetic expression. Han Li invited him in. "Brother Li, I'm truly sorry. I originally thought my reputation would be enough to exempt the three of you from the evaluation. Unfortunately, the city lord not only rejected my request but gave me a harsh scolding. He said the rules are the foundation upon which a city stands and absolutely cannot be ignored. That's perfectly fine. Since we intend to join Qingyang City, we should naturally follow its rules. Whatever the evaluation requires, we'll simply do it." Although the city lord refused to waive the evaluation, he promised that as long as you pass the standard for compliant citizens, all of you can join my hunting team together. You won't be split among different groups. "Oh? What exactly is the standard for becoming a compliant citizen?" Han Li asked. "The evaluation measures physical strength, specifically by checking how many profound apertures you've opened. Anyone with 16 or more qualifies as a compliant citizen. Anyone below 16 becomes a surrendered citizen. Those with 54 or more can become captains of city guard squads, while those with 72 or more can serve as hunting captains." Han Li's heart stirred slightly. When he first met Chun Yang, the latter had revealed only around 50 or 60 profound apertures. Judging from this standard, Chen Yang's true number of opened apertures was probably considerably higher. "I understand. When will the evaluation take place?" From what those record officers said earlier, it sounded like newcomers are supposed to be evaluated immediately upon entering the city. "There's no rush. You and Brother Sure have traveled a long distance and must be exhausted. Rest properly tonight. The evaluation will take place tomorrow." "Very well. Thank you, fellow Taoist Chun." "Brother Li, there's no need to thank me. I already feel guilty that I couldn't get the evaluation waived." "Brother Chun, don't say that. Otherwise, I'll be the one who feels guilty." The two exchanged a few more polite words before Chun Yang took his leave. Han Li returned inside. He stood silently for a moment, considering the situation, then sat cross-legged again. After swallowing a beast core, he closed his eyes and resumed cultivating. The next morning, Han Li, Shichuankong, and the crab Taoist followed Chun Yang down from the third level of Qingyang City. They crossed the lowest level, passed through the Black Fortress, and entered the right mountain. The internal structure here was much the same as on the left side. The mountain had also been divided into 4 levels. The moment they passed through the enormous entrance at the base of the mountain, Han Li saw enormous animal pens separated by stone walls. Nearly every pen contained massive beasts of various shapes and colors. Among them were the same blue-gray scaled beasts Chun Yang's hunting party had used during their expedition. Many surrendered citizens in gray robes moved around the pens, washing the animals, feeding them, and performing various menial tasks. The group did not remain on the first level and went directly to the second. This level was slightly smaller. Large stone chambers and animal pens occupied the area here as well. However, the beasts imprisoned on the second level were far less docile. Some bared uneven rows of enormous teeth while growling deeply. Others repeatedly slammed their bodies against the barriers. Most of the people guarding the pens were surrendered citizens dressed like servants, though several compliant citizens belonging to the city guard were also present. Whenever one of the beasts became too unruly, the guards would step in and beat it back into submission. Chun Yang continued upward with the 3 of them until they reached the third level. The moment they arrived, Han Li spotted 2 familiar faces. One was the round-faced man with the pointed horn in the center of his forehead. The other was the long-eared, square-faced man with the cold expression. Both wore dark crimson robes. They were the 2 record officers from the previous day. After exchanging greetings with them, Chen Yang followed as the 2 officers led the group into an isolated stone chamber. The chamber was enormous, even larger than Chun Yang's residence. There were no dividing rooms or unnecessary furnishings. At first glance, it resembled an indoor training ground. "The puppet doesn't need to be tested. Which of you 2 will go first?" the long-eared officer asked coldly while glancing at Han Li and Shichuankong. "Since we both have to do it, the order doesn't matter." "I'll go first," Shichuankong said before Han Li could respond. "Very well. Fellow Taoist Shi, please step onto that stone platform." the round-faced officer said with a smile. At the center of the chamber stood a black stone platform several dozen meters across and only around half a meter high. A layer of white crystalline powder covered its surface, faintly reflecting the firelight inside the room. Shi Chuankong stepped onto the platform and walked to the center. Fellow Taoist Shi, there's nothing complicated you need to do. Simply activate your profound cultivation technique and illuminate every profound aperture you've opened, the round-faced officer explained. Shi Chuankong nodded. He clenched both fists and gathered his strength. Then he suddenly let out a loud shout. A hazy white glow immediately spread across his body. One profound aperture after another began shining across his skin. Han Li first released his spiritual sense and swept it across the black platform and white crystalline powder. After detecting nothing unusual, he narrowed his eyes slightly and focused on Shi Chuankong. One cluster of light after another continued appearing across Shi Chuankong's body. 10, 20, 30. Han Li's heart stirred. Judging from the rate at which they were appearing, Shi Chuankong had clearly opened significantly more profound apertures than Han Li himself. Sure enough, after the 37th aperture lit up, the 38th appeared. Then the 39th. The lights continued appearing until the 45th profound aperture finally illuminated. Only then did the process seem to stop. At the same time, an invisible aura erupted from Shi Chuankong's body, sending the white crystalline powder around his feet, rippling outward and scattering into the air. A faint smile appeared at the corner of Shi Chuankong's mouth. He was just about to withdraw his cultivation technique and step off the platform when his expression suddenly changed. The white crystalline powder seemed to be drawn toward him by some invisible force. It rose from the platform and began swirling rapidly around his body before attaching itself to him. The distance was too short and the movement too fast for Shi Chuankong to react. In an instant, the crystalline powder had already spread across his entire body. A series of strange sounds immediately came from within him. Then the 46th profound aperture lit up. The 47th followed. And then the 48th.